So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's 2:15, so it's time to start. Perhaps some people will join us later. But it's important we start on time because we have a very rich afternoon, plenty of sessions and speakers. This is a workshop, so it's an event that is not targeted to a general audience, but to people that are interested in also in contributing. So this is an invitation for you on the topic we are discussing. And well, the topic is somehow described in the title, even though it is important we clarify a little bit better the main aims of the workshop. So the topic, the title is Walking Down the New Silk Road. There is something going on between Europe and China and Asia in general. There is a rejuvenation, let's say so, of connections, and this is bringing about plenty of opportunities for entrepreneurs, for economic systems, and also for the promotion of innovation. So we would like to discuss all this together during this afternoon. Of course, considering anyway that this is a very tough challenge, I mean, to cover all this stuff. To do this, we have invited a number of experts and qualified speakers, and we want to share with them their views and their experiences about doing business with China or doing business from China to Europe, and in general establishing economic and political relations with this country. This event is held here in Trieste within a broader project which is called CAB, C-A-B, which means Cross-Border Acceleration Bridge. It may seem quite an exotic title, so it's important we clarify this too. It's a project that is going to be presented by the lead partner, Friuli Innovazione, and Ms. Claudia Baracchini. But it's what I can just add for the time being is that this project is held within a European Union program called INTERREG Italia-Slovenia. So here in this event, we would like to discuss of the opportunities available to carry out economic development and promote innovation between Italy, Slovenia, and China. So I would like to give the floor to Claudia Baracchini to give us a short introduction to the CAB project.
Okay, hello. The frame within which this event is organized, as Professor Andrea Tracogna just mentioned, is CAB, Cross-Border Acceleration Bridge. And as it was during the projecting phase, the main aim is really to create connections which are really concrete connections between mainly two ecosystems, the entrepreneurial ecosystem and research ecosystem in Slovenia and the Italian one. It started out of already existing network and collaborations. And finally, in September 2018, we started with the implementation phase. So the overall idea is to implement some pilot actions. Now I will describe them more, with the objective to create a more competitive environment. This cross-border ecosystem starts and is created based on the partners of this project. We are altogether 3 universities: University of Trieste, University of Primorska, and University of Venice. 2 business incubators, one accelerator is the ABC Accelerator from Ljubljana, and Friuli Innovazione business incubator. Friuli Innovazione is settled in Udine. 2 innovative companies, and this is very important because usually within this European Interreg projects, very rarely there are companies involved. And finally, this time, well, I've been working within a European project for some years now, and this is the first project where partners are involved and their companies. Then we have also 3 associate partners, one industrial business association, policymaker, and a development agency. So the ecosystem starts out of these partners and within their networks. The main output, what we want to achieve within the Cross-Border Acceleration Bridge project is first to analyze and research and identify what is the best business model for a cross-border acceleration program, and then to design and finally to test the cross-border acceleration collaboration. The main targets are startups. Within the Italian law, they're defined innovative startups because there's a specific law supporting this target, and of course also innovative SMEs. Going through the concrete actions, first of all, the methodology, as I anticipated, there's we already did the analysis of the state-of-the-art research analysis, so analyzing what is already there, analyzing what are the also best examples of cross-border programs already existing, not only in Europe but also in other countries. And then finally, sharing the experience, competence, and designing, ideating the business model that supports the 2 pilot actions, and of course, testing them. Quickly, what the outputs of the project and what we already achieved are, of course, the research and studies reports. The unique, we indicated as one acceleration program with which applies then to 2 different targets, and we know that we've been discussing this morning because we had also partners meeting. The targets are quite different. On one side we have startups, new companies, innovative companies just started their process, their development, and on the other side we have SMEs, innovative SMEs, which are developing, have already experienced, but are developing new approaches, new products, and accessing to new markets. To support this process, we have a set of the 3 cap points, which basically are the antennas of the program. One is settled in Friuli Innovazione, one at ABC Accelerator, and one at in Venice within the University Ca' Foscari. Another important event activity which is going to be implemented is apart from the 2 acceleration programs, one directed to startups and the other to SMEs, a unique event called the CAB Expo, where the results and all the, say, main actors of this enlarged and cross-border ecosystem will be put together, calling for other partners, calling for potential new connections. Now, I will leave what is ongoing to Alex Pustovhr from the ABC Accelerator, because, as I said, we already started with the first CAB acceleration program.
Thanks, Claudia. So, hi. I come from ABC Ljubljana, and we are actually currently working with the first batch of startups that are involved in CAB, half of them coming from Italy, half of them coming from Slovenia. And it's been interesting. I must say that a lot of these startups coming from Italy to Slovenia are finding, well, first of all, they didn't know about Slovenia, that this is a place that you can actually do some business as well. Second, it's a small little place, cozy. Everybody knows everybody. We actually guarantee our startups that we can get them a meeting with anybody in Slovenia in 2 phone calls. So yes, we had meetings with the Prime Minister and the President of Slovenia. They are easy to reach because politicians like to take pictures. There are other people that are more difficult to reach, okay? So, and I think that this is kind of a surprise to also startups coming from Italy, that it's just a small place where it's easy to test ideas. It's easy to test solutions, okay? It's a nice playground, test area. On the other hand, we work with Slovenian startups, and of course Slovenian startups can, easily do these things. They don't need us to get in contact with the Slovenian Prime Minister, because probably they know somebody in his office anyway. But what they don't know, and they don't know how to do, is to go to a bigger market, to do scale up in a much larger environment. Italy has 60 million people. It's one of the top 10 economies in the world. It's 1 hour away from Ljubljana, and of course Ljubljana is 1 hour away from Trieste. And it seems that this combination of Slovenia as a small, nice test ground, playground, and Italy as a big scale-up country, and both of them being no more than 1 hour's drive away from each other, that this is possibly the perfect combination that startups can have. This is what we are testing. This is what the CAB actually wants to do with startups. So far, we see that Italian startups like Slovenia in this playground area. We know that a lot of Slovenian startups are very much motivated to go and work with Friuli Innovazione and work with institutions in Italy in order to scale up their businesses. This is the next step that we are starting in January. And it seems to us that this project and this European support actually has contributed to this bridging activity between Italy and Slovenia. The next step, also starting in January, is going to be working with bigger companies, working with small and medium-sized enterprises, and in particular that would be medium-sized enterprises who already have their own internal innovation activities, innovation projects. And that's difficult, to be innovative in a small or medium-sized companies, it's not easy. Companies don't know how to do that. And that's the next step for us. It's to see if we can help them, if we can use this unique position of Slovenia and Italy, and position where they can test, where they can scale up, and position where they can also not only learn from each other, but also learn from the startups, for them to become more innovative, more successful. Okay, so that's the idea. We're gonna finish working on that in July 2018. We're gonna show, the idea here is to just do a showcase. If these experiments that we are doing with them will be successful, we totally want to keep on working on this. If startups will find our ideas and our tests useful, then they will be willing to work with us in the future. If SMEs will see that there is some value that we are creating for them, maybe in the future they would be even willing to pay for that. We don't know. But at this moment, it seems that we are well on the way to test something that in reality has not really been tested elsewhere in Europe. This kind of a cross-border, stage gate acceleration of new innovation. This is something that I think is unique to this region. And if you don't mind, I would then just like to talk a little bit more about the challenges that we see in the future. And in particular, we are talking today about China. So the real question for me is, why China? And I mean, what has China to do with startups in Italy and Slovenia? Well, I can tell you what it has. The best startup ever created in Slovenia is called Outfit 7. They do a cat which talks. You know, do you see? It's an app which has 350 million users. It's bigger than Twitter. 7 billion downloads. And it was acquired by a Chinese company for $1 billion in cash. So it's a very typical example of how Chinese companies are actually interested in what we do. Sometimes very interested. And our project is actually about bridging. How do you connect small market like Slovenia and a big market like Italy, and how do you create a bridge that could benefit innovation, how it could benefit companies? But of course, this is not the only bridging that can be done. We want to do more. We want to do bridge, we want to create connections to hubs where technology centers of the world. And in the past, that would mean Silicon Valley. And ABC Accelerator actually has an office in San Jose, in Silicon Valley, and we have found out that Silicon Valley is not really, this miracle place where miracles happen all the time. On the other hand, what we do see is that an alternative technology market, and I would even say an alternative ecosystem, is developing in China. As recently as a few years ago, there was one technology market in the world, but today there are more and more two different markets. I can give you an example. Yesterday I had a Chinese tourist in Ljubljana, and we had difficulties communicating with him. He didn't speak much English. My Chinese doesn't exist. So how do we make normal business happen? So we said, and he didn't have a phone, okay? So we said, okay, now just send me a WhatsApp, and, said, what is WhatsApp? I've never heard of WhatsApp. It doesn't work. It doesn't exist in China. And then he suggested that I use Baidu. And it was my turn to be, puzzled. I don't use Baidu. He made the reservation via email and said, okay, but you can do again the reservation via booking.com. It doesn't exist in China. They don't use this, okay? So for me, at the end, it was like pieces of paper and communication with drawing of stuff, okay? To me, it just showcases that Chinese tech environment is completely different. It's growing, probably growing faster than any other tech environment in the world. It's very interested in what we do here. They would not invest $1 billion in a Slovenian startup if they would not be interested. But it also shows that this bridge is something that, at least at this moment, it's not really effective yet. I was not aware of the fact that I cannot even communicate with a Chinese client or customer. And I see this as a challenge for CAB and, of course, many other projects as well. How can we do this? How can we help, the emerging startup and technology communities in Slovenia, Italy, and Europe in general to actually benefit from the emerging of Chinese ecosystem and from other recent developments in the world? I don't want to be too long. There are many things I think that we can do, but the intention of today's workshop, I think, is also to just share experiences and share know-how, so that the next time I get a Chinese tourist, I can actually communicate with him. Okay.
Thank you, Aleš. You have now the chance to ask questions to Claudia and Aleš as representatives, as main representatives of this CAB project, if you have any question. Otherwise, of course, we can continue with the next presentations. But just to be sure, there is nothing pending in the audience, I mean, in terms of curiosities or anything related to the CAB project. Yes, please.
Which are now the incubated projects at this time?
So you mean in the CAB projects? Because we have other projects as well. We have 15 startups. half from Italy, half from Slovenia, and they're very diverse. So Italian projects, one of them is doing the next generation of lawn mowers, you know, the robotic stuff. We have a company, one of them sitting there, called Foxwin. They do, they support innovation in larger companies. They facilitate innovation in big companies. We have a nano-satellite producing company, and we have e-commerce site, okay, from an experienced founder who has actually done another startup in China before and sold it, and he's now back in China again. So the Italian, as you can see, the Italian startups are very much diverse, also in different stages of development. Some of these companies already have revenue, like Foxwin, for example. Others are still improving their ideas, their products. On the Slovenian side, we have a very successful blockchain company that raised quite a lot of money in the initial coin offering last year. We have, you know, route optimization startup, which doesn't have any customer yet, but they claim to be better than Google. Typical, you know, every startup is better than Google. And we have many other interesting companies. So it's very diverse. But the common thing here is that they are all interested in opportunities that these two markets offer as a combination.
Any other question? Okay. So there is a sort of a rearrangement of the sequence of the speakers. We will get back to the startups later on for some constraints that the speakers have. So we will continue now with Giovanna Tosetto, which we invite here to introduce us to the changes which are taking place at the political, institutional, macroeconomic level, which may make a difference in our vision of China and China-Europe relations. So in the meantime, you can also tell us something about you and your role in exploiting these opportunities to connect.
I will. If I may use this one. So good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today and to introduce you a bit about these challenging word, which is China, of course. Why I'm here? This is a very good question. I'm not dealing with the economics. I'm dealing with economics as well, but I am working in tourism. I've always been working in tourism, and getting to receive in the proper way these new guests coming from China. It's very important to get to learn something more about the economics, the way these Asian countries developing is moving and is moving very, very fast. I've been in China the first time, a very long time ago, when China was a very traditional, historical country, and I used to go to China quite often, almost 2 or 3 times per year, and I've been studying and working with an important institute which is based in Germany and in Beijing as well, doing research about the tourists, the world, the Chinese markets, the socials that they are using. I heard Alex talking about WhatsApp, which is unknown in China. Of course it is, like Facebook and all these kind of socials. So if somebody wants to work with China, you have to get to use the other socials they are used there. If you don't have WeChat, you cannot even start talking to a Chinese. And then the first question they do, because WeChat means to talk with the Chinese, but exchanging messages is one of the very, very big choice of things you can do with WeChat, because they are paying with WeChat, calling the taxis, and all this kind of stuff. So, as you can see, starting with the first slide I have, what will be the future of tourism, especially of tourism in the new Silk Road? And the company I am representing by the time being is this COTRI, which is the China Outbound Tourism Research Institute, as I said before, based in Hamburg and with a new site in Beijing as well, and working with the Chinese employees as well on the other side. What traveled in the past on the old Silk Roads? Because we are talking about the BRI and all this kind of stuff and the new Silk Road, but we have to go back to the history just to get a better idea of what happened at the time. What is the present, the framework, cargo and passengers, which is involving I think much more the new enterprises and the startups involved in this project, and not just in this project, joining Italy and Slovenia towards the Asian and the Chinese markets, and the significance and development of the Chinese outbound travel market. Because when we talk about tourism, as Alex was saying before, we do not have to think just about the leisure tourists who are coming just for fun to get to know our destinations, but a huge amount of Chinese market who's coming to visit our destinations, coming to Italy and Slovenia and Europe, are the leisure tourists. That means business and leisure. So they are doing business in Europe, but they want to get and enjoy the destination as well. Which will be then the new multimodal Silk Road, and which will be the opportunities and the challenges we have to face in the future. COTRI, which is the institute I'm working for, I am the representative for Italy for this research institute, is doing and offering services how to behave with the Chinese market, what are the Chinese looking for, how do they want to be welcome when they reach our places, our countries. And this institute is recognized by the most important international associations all over the world, which is PATA, Pacific, Asia, and Travel Association, joining together all the most important tour operators and enterprises working in tourism in Asia. I mean, we are not talking just about China, but it's Japan and all the countries, Asian countries around. And then, of course, it has been, it became an affiliate member of United World Tourism Organization. I was yesterday on a virtual tourism fair, which was taking place just virtually. So, I mean, I didn't go there, but it was organized by Europe with China on the 27th, on the 28th. And I visited a lot of booths, of Chinese booths yesterday, and I received all their information. And I closed some contracts as well. While staying here, I was visiting the exhibition there. So the Silk Road started in 1877, as you can see, and the term Silk Road was made popular by these Swedish geographers Sven Hedin in 1938. So the first time when we heard something regarding the Silk Road was at the beginning of the previous century, the 20th century. But this Silk Road was an ancient way to travel, to exchange, to bring goods, to sell across Eurasia, Europe, Central and South Asia, and China. This is just to how it looked in the past, just to have an idea. I mean, there was, of course, the Silk Road and all the connecting routes which were joining to the Silk Road. And the main products which were sold at the time were from clothes to silk, slaves, and spices. Who was traveling at the time on the old Silk Roads? I mean, the ancient travelers, as Marco Polo did, of course, and thanks to this road, we were able to get inventions, new religions, new trends, and knowledge, and new languages, of course. So I think that going back to the past, we are trying to recreate a kind of synergy and cooperation along the footsteps of this new Belt Road Initiative, of course. In 2013, it was the first time when we heard about the economic belt along the Silk Road. And then in the 21st century, this was introduced by the Chinese government. As the Chinese who are guests here or working here, they know perfectly well. 2014, there was a name change, which was One Belt, One Road, and then since 2017, it became more simply BRI, Belt Road Initiative. This was done by the Chinese president. I excuse myself, even though I'm studying Chinese, my pronunciation will be as good as yours. So I would like to invite you to pronounce the right family name of your president, but I think it's Xi Jinping. It's correct? Great. I've been studying Chinese for 4 years, so I speak a bit of Chinese as well. And what does include these BRI? It includes projects in these different countries and continents: Asia, Europe, Africa, and South America. And this is getting far away, a bit far away from the old Eurasia roots we were looking at before. And it's becoming, let's say, a kind of soft power policy on the side of the Chinese and even on the other side. This, of course, was underlined by the most important political representatives. As you can see here, on one side we see the sentence pronounced by Deng Xiaoping: keep a cool head and maintain a low profile. This is, we have to get to know something more about the philosophy of the Chinese and of this market before getting to get any business. Never take the lead, but aim to do something big. And what happened in October 2017, China has entered a new era where it should take center stage in the world. This is a very important sentence we have to keep in front of our eyes and to keep in mind when we are just thinking to get cooperation or to do business with these market and with this country. Of course, the meaning of this pronunciation on the political side meant even development in infrastructures, mainly on the cargo transportation, long-distance rail tracks, which could enhance a faster movement of goods, harbor facilities, improve logistics, and of course $1 billion of USD of dollars then invested and available for these developing of the infrastructures. Just to give you an idea, what is the means of transportation these businessmen and these Chinese are using? Of course, are the aircrafts, and just to have a look about the increase of the passengers carried by these carriers and Chinese airlines, you can just have a look from 1990 up to 2017. It's a huge, unbelievable increase. And of course, this was done on one side thanks to the development of the Belt Road Initiative and all the investments which have been done during the recent years. In March 2018, there was a big change, and in China, tourism has been joined to the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, and this, of course, would enable to improve and increase the number of users of these kind of possibility of tourism, but even enhancing the country's soft power and cultural influence, and try to promote even the cultural exchanges. That means something more, that Chinese government is even supporting tourism for non-economic reasons, which has not been like this before. And according to the United World Tourism Organization, you can have a look how the arrivals from China will increase. You can see on these slide you have in front of your eyes. And when we have a look at these numbers, we have to think we are just talking about mainland. For the ones who are not aware of the difference between mainland and Greater China, mainland is just a continent, let's say, and the Greater China is Hong Kong, Macau included. So we are not talking about the main cities which are producing the main number of Chinese coming to Europe, but you can see the forecasts we have here. And there are some destinations we are losing a lot of market due to the fact that, of course, even businessmen, they are not going like they were doing previously to this destination, Hong Kong, Macau, for example, and even for the politics Macau is doing. Macau, as you know, is a gambling destination, so the Chinese government is trying to keep a bit lower the need to go and gamble, because the Chinese normally, the average, they do like to gamble, so Macau is trying to do a new policy now and trying to change the way of showing the country. And Taiwan, this is another story that we are not going deeper into this. But as you can see, the forecast, of course, of the movements, it's very, very interesting, and half of the additional outbound travelers will be Chinese in the future. What is one of the reasons why we are not having all these numbers of Chinese coming over to Europe or to our destination, Italy and Slovenia as well? Slovenia has been starting to work with the Asian markets a long time before we did, because they are working thanks to the green destination with the Japanese market. And they are now working with the Chinese market. Italy, of course, is one of the destinations the Chinese, for the first time when they travel out of China, coming to you, they would like to see, but then we are not able to get all the Chinese who want to see Italy all at once, because we are missing communication, promotion, and there is a lack of offers we are able to give to these new guests coming over. Not a very few percentage of Chinese have the passports, of course, and the ones who have, they are living in the biggest cities. As you can see, there are two kinds, first and second tier cities. The classification depends upon the number of inhabitants of the city. As you can see in this map, these are the main and the most important originating regions of China. To simplify the arrivals of these markets, of course, there are countries who organized quite, in a speedy way, and they let the Chinese have a visa-free entry. Australia is an example. Without a visa, of course, even for business, it means to develop and exchange work. It's much easier, because for some Chinese, getting the visa means to go to the city where the embassy or the consulate is there, and the distances are not like the one we are used in Europe. And other destinations, they just give the visa upon arrival. On the Italian side, we opened some new consulates. We are trying to improve the time to have the visa. They were not so speedy as other countries, but this is not the topic we have to face today. As you can see, a lot of more connecting flights. This is important for the business and for developing new strategies, of course. Talking about Italy, the main hub, it's Milan, with direct flights from operated by this airline company. And these are new entries, because we do have other connecting flights, of course, to Rome, and they are older ones. I do not have so much time, but it's interesting to go back to what the speaker, who was giving us some information regarding this cooperation, the startups and so on, and mobile and use of the social and the web. You can see how the use of the mobile increased in China, and of course you can see even what is the social they are using at most, which is WeChat, which is used for everything. If I want to send money to my friend from China to France, I will use WeChat. I go in a shop, I use WeChat. I go to the market, I use WeChat. And then there are all the others coming, but they are at the back of this one. And this is amazing, but with a QR code, you know, you have to smile. Then WeChat, and the other must word is Alipay, which is, of course, a very good way of doing business. And most of the shops at the airports, they are becoming users of Alipay. Even the most important banks in Italy, they are now using Alipay in this way of payment. For talking about tourism and talking about the new trends of this market, we have to forget the quantity and the group size of Chinese coming to Europe, just to have an idea, and in 7 days to see the most they can see. Now we have the second and the third wave of Chinese coming to Europe with a very deep culture. Most of them, they can speak English, or they do have their children or the son who has been studying in Europe or in the US, so they are aware of the culture and even doing business with these new waves of Chinese becomes easier, let's say like this. There is a growth in the FITs, the individual travelers, and that means quality and value for money. And what are the challenges we have to overcome thanks to this Belt Road initiative? Need for more information about different countries, and these offers even made available in China. Need for more market intelligence. I think that this goes the way we are trying to do even with this project. Try to be prepared and improve your readiness to get these Chinese market and to sign agreements, work agreements with them. Try to adapt your product and develop your product according to their needs, if possible, and train for service providers. To get to know this ancient culture, it's not useless, it's a must to improve your business with this market. The biggest challenge, learning to develop both B2B and B2C communication channels, if possible. And of course, this is for tourism. Try not to get many Chinese package tours, but this is not the topic today in this, during this workshop. China could be a big opportunity. And I think that cooperation goes that way, of course, and even this project can help the startups and the new ideas to face and to join this market. According to tourism, of course, we will be expecting higher arrival numbers. That means higher number of overnights and a higher capacity of spending. These will be the highest spenders in the future. That means a very good opportunity for the locals and for the local enterprises for shopping and all these kind of things related to this. If you want to have further information regarding these trends and these studies, you can even refer to the website if you are interested in to have some more information, or if there are questions, of course, I try to answer your questions. And I'm pleased to see that we have Chinese guests here, and then my pronunciation was fine. Ni hao.
Okay, thank you very much. And just to take this opportunity on the spot, I'm asking you whether we can collect this presentation and upload it on a website, which we can create for the special purpose of this event, together with other presenters' materials.
I think, I mean, almost 99% I will say yes,
Okay.
and you have the opportunity to check on the website and to apply to get the newsletters in the future as you want, because there are updated data. How are the business, corporate Chinese moving, what they are looking for, because if you are developing these startups and you are doing business, of course, you'll be receiving the businessman, as the gentleman from Slovenia was saying before, and not telling him to book via booking. They do if they can, some of them they do, of course, but having WeChat. So it's a very nice business card, and then, of course, yes.
Okay. So let's check whether there is any question from the audience. I see one hand raised. Okay, please.
My name is one of the teachers of MIB. Thank you for your presentation, which was very clear. I have only one question. You were talking about arrivals. I suppose you are thinking about Chinese arrivals in Europe. Arrivals in Europe, where exactly? Because I also would like, the second question is, do we also have data concerning European arrivals in China? Because we will have probably a bilateral benefit thanks to the One Belt, One Road initiative.
Yes.
And tourism is one of the positive impact that we have, but probably not the only one. Do you
Yes,
have also data?
it's a very, these questions are very interesting, and I'm pleased to answer your questions. First of all, regarding the data and the arrivals and the overnights, because the arrivals on one side can be easily checked, because if they need the visa, of course, the entrance, and we can check this, and we can check with the overnights. The problem is that we do not have just one kind of data for Europe, because each country is behaving in a different way. For example, if we are checking the numbers towards Italy, maybe we count the Chinese travelers twice or three times, because they count their overnights or their, arrivals according to the different regions, destination management organization who are taking these numbers. But regarding the other way around, Chinese National Tourism Association has got these numbers, and of course these are split into two sides: the business travelers and the leisure travelers. So we can even have this, and there are some of these official data which can be found on the website as well of CNTA, Chinese National Tourism Association. So you can even have a look where the Europeans, you can check the data, Europe towards China, which are the destination the Europeans are going to. Most probably you will see the biggest, the first tier cities or developing destination, such as, not just to talk all the times about Shanghai, Beijing, but even Shenzhen, Chongqing, and so on. Yes.
Okay, other questions? Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Tosetto, for your presentation. That was lovely. I'm Said. I come from Slovenia, and I have a startup in tourism. So we're trying to build a really good digital infrastructure for welcoming tourists into the country. So one of the problems we sort of face is, say, we can bring the Chinese tourists, right? We understand technology. We put WeChat, we put Alipay, we put automatic translations, and it helps them. But the problem is when we bring them, they come to the airport, but then they go to the final destination. So maybe all of you can help as well. So how do we try to manage this, right? So my platform can take care of bringing them here, sending them to a nice experience where they can go see a bear in the forest, but I don't manage the last part. But how can we make sure that they're happy at the end of the thing?
This is the question I was looking for. Thanks. You were thinking as I was thinking about. What we started to do, for example, if I can tell you a best practice, we started here in Friuli Venezia Giulia, together with our destination management organization, is to train the tourist operators how to welcome the Chinese market. That means there is a special training you can get, and we started talking about the history, the culture, which are the priorities of this ancient culture. As everybody, as Italian, when I go somewhere else and to a very different country, to Asia, for example, I'm looking around and I would like to receive something which applies to my culture at the beginning, because I feel safer. And for the Chinese markets, studying these markets, I see that there are many similarities with the Italian culture. So, and of course, if you're working in Slovenia, you will have some of these similarities as well. So what we do, and what the biggest organization in China and in Europe are looking for, is to train the actors of tourism, inbound tourism, even business, corporate tourism, how to behave, what you have to have in your hotel, in your restaurant, which service cannot be missing, which is a must for these markets, which are the top priorities for these markets, and then you can even get a quality label, which can be spent on the Chinese market as a qualified supplier. There are two of them, actually. One is this, which can be done through the training with COTRI. COTRI is doing training. We are planning most probably to do some more training in Italy, in northern Italy, in the next future. And then it will be Welcome Chinese. It's another organization. There are two of them. You have just to be aware and check on the website which one is the most reliable one. Of course, we are not doing here something commercial, but if an enterprise giving this label belongs to an international association such as, or is recognized by United World Tourism Organization, that means that it's qualified, of course. You're welcome.
Okay. No other questions. So first of all, I thank you a lot. I thank also Claudia and Aleš. And I'd like to now move on to the next set of presenters. May I invite here Vittorio Torbianelli and Cristiano Piani. Just 30 seconds so that we can upload the presentations. Okay, questa è... Okay, Vittorio Torbianelli and Cristiano Piani are representing here, besides their institutions, but also the, let's say so, the city of Trieste, which hosts this event. And so, in a way, this is also a good opportunity to reflect on the role of Trieste and, in general, the Adriatic region in respect to the opportunities which are opening up, not only in the movement of people. We have been talking about people moving from one side to the other, but also regarding the movements of merchandise and knowledge. Vittorio Torbianelli is working in the Port Network Authority of the Eastern Adriatic Sea, and he's in charge of the Special Projects Unit. He will tell us what these special projects are about.
It's
Then
a
later,
secret.
we will hear from Cristiano Piani the experience of the University of Trieste in opening up new avenues of collaboration at the scientific level with many countries and also China on top of them. But I would like to leave the floor to Vittorio. Please, Vittorio.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I'm very happy to be here to share with you some experience, because really talking about the Belt and Road Initiative starts from personal experience. I went to China only the last year 4 times, because we work in the Port Authority with China, and really we had many contacts during the last 2 years, so it is a nice point of view. Clearly, my vision is clearly partial, because my perspective is strictly related to infrastructures, investment in infrastructures, which are a part of the general framework of the Belt and Road Initiative as Chinese government and in general the Chinese system wanted to develop. But I think that it is quite important, because in fact it embodies all other, some other aspects related to relations between China and Europe. Also, if we talk about in general advanced industries or innovation. So I would like just to start from some slide, but they are not my slides. There are slides I have seen in Shanghai not many months ago. I took this picture by my phone. And it is quite nice, because the focus was identify Silk Road node cities inside the Belt and Road construction. This is presented by Shanghai Academy of Social Sciences, and it is a target shared with the Shanghai government that tried to focus what are parameters and variables that should be taken in consideration when Chinese government has to decide what or which cities should get part of the Belt and Road Initiative. Because they have a policy, they have a vision. I'm going to say that it is not a strictly centralized vision, but they have a very clear strategy. So, and they want to understand how and where in particular to play the game. They have understood that they have to play a very, very differentiated game in a lot of places, because they know geography very well, and they understand that they have to how do you say, perform as an how do you say in English, agopuntura is a okay, which is a specific way to deal with wide areas. So we should understand that they want to understand where different potentials are located. So not only big capital cities are potentially part of this strategy, but also small places. And they have a lot of people working on that. They believe in this strategy, and so but also they have to understand how select options. For example, this is a nice, quite interesting model. They are working on a model that tries to identify what are indicators. For example, partnership index, regional influence index, growth potential. So they measure parameters related to our areas. So it is very important to understand they have a scientific approach to that. Also to understand what are our parameters to show. And on the other side, they have also a very clear strategic geographical vision. I think that we, in Europe, we have to understand that the Belt and Road Initiative, in fact, starts from a target, which is supporting integrated investments in an area connecting Europe and Asia and China. It is not the only geographical target of this initiative, but it is important because they believe that through infrastructure investments they can start a lot of other types of processes, how do you say, improving other types of economic relationships, trades, and also clearly some political influence. This is absolutely clear. But also the strategy, in my opinion, is continuously changing because they learn very, very fastly from experiences. For example, if we look to a map of the Belt and Road Initiative of 3 years ago or 4 years ago, it is different from the today map. I went not more than a week ago in Brussels, where a meeting was held, a meeting of the European Union China connectivity platform related to a sort of a political engine to integrate European Union and China when we talk about infrastructures. And in that moment clearly emerged that now China is strongly focusing on a southern route, which means avoiding in the strategic vision to pass through Russia. Russia is too dangerous. It's not really interest of China to promote infrastructure development along the northern corridor, which is useful for trade targets clearly, but politically they asked formally to identify the connection point between the European network and the Belt and Road Initiative network only in the southern part through Central Asian republics, and Turkey and the Balkan door to Europe, the Balkan Gate. Just to say that they develop very clear positions and they propose also politically, taking in account year by year the situation. But turning back to our case, we are working with the Chinese companies because they are interested in investing in our port. But what is interesting that they propose in general a model. They don't want only a port or a gate. They really look for integrated systems where industry and research is possible to be developed. So they have in their cities the so-called triangular model. For example, port, business parks, which are very important in China, and they invest a lot in these business parks, which are very different from our business parks, because in fact they are in really integrated industrial developments, not only research, really they work putting together all the phases of from startup to actual implementation. They work with this model, port, city, because they believe in the capability of city of attracting energies, and port because they clearly have to trade, and they look for places where trade can be important. So this is the reason why they are really interested in also in Trieste, but because the interest is really true. I hope that in the next months we will see something. What is also interesting, in my opinion, is understanding that they work through different types of companies, because they have, how do you say, some propellers, which are large state-owned enterprises that move the first wave, but they have a lot of other followers, integrators. These companies are in a strong competition among them. Believe me, it is incredible because China, in some terms, we believe that it is a very integrated system, very centralized. No, they have a lot of competition between companies, also within the groups, these mega groups, because companies are let free to move. So it's a nice type of controlled capitalism. And on the other side, these small companies can follow, and the small companies are more related to very specific private interests. So they have this two-layer strategy. Sometimes small companies also are not well-behaving because they had problems with these companies that used a lot of public money to develop some projects, and then, because of many reasons, they didn't get the target, so they also are refocusing this policy, preferring some types of companies instead of the first phases. So there are different approaches, but anyway, they are also started to talk about technology, as you know. For example, when we talk about ports, they always ask to enter also with blockchain developers, because they have understood that blockchain in general is a tool that has to be developed in specific market niches, because there is not only one blockchain standard. They have understood that blockchain is just a tool that have to be developed, linking with specific groups of company, groups of businesses and markets. So, for example, they are interested in entering some specific potentially blockchain markets where they have specific customers, as in our case, shipping companies and integrated platforms related to shipping sector. So they are very able to understand how to work with these, how do you say, integrated systems of opportunities. And blockchain is just an example, because we see that, because we are not capable to see when they work on healthcare or other sectors, we cannot see. Anyway, so we have the perception that they are really a very integrated strategy. On our part, we believe that it is possible to really get a lot of opportunities when we talk with the Chinese companies about these kind of developments. I think that we shouldn't be so scared, because we can also decide how to deal with these challenges. I think that we can decide what are rules, and also what are the possibilities to go to China using the same two-way system. So there are also clearer opportunities. For example, just to mention a local case, you know, Fincantieri. They developed a new shipbuilding cluster in Shanghai, near Shanghai, in Baoshan. They decided that they have not to develop their most advanced technology, so they are able to play a game where they maintain power. They want to promote a two-way system, also through trade facilitation and other tools that can be useful not only for them, but in general for developing relationships. They asked to enter the market, and so also other companies in principle could do the same, because there are rooms. It is not through that everything is closed, and in our feeling, China also is understanding that they have to open more and to provide more opportunities for European or foreign countries to invest there, because they also felt that if they don't do that, there are stronger negative reactions, because they felt that the Belt and Road Initiative, as imagined in the first periods, as a very powerful, we are powerful, we provide money to build your infrastructures with our capabilities, is not the right way to get also the advantages that they want to get. So they are continuously adapting, and also they are very sensitive to the political reactions, and they, in my opinion, understood that they have to open some door to allow a two-way exchange. So I have the impression that it is very interesting to deal with the business at every level, that we can, with our business capability and also with our culture, to have a balanced power, if we are able to understand the game. Sorry, this is my impression, perhaps I'm wrong, but so thank you very much.
Okay. Please, Vittorio, if you can stay here, because I'm pretty sure there will be questions from the audience. I see one hand raised. Perhaps there are other hands. Okay, please, Stefano Pilotto.
Thank you, Vittorio, for your presentation. I just would like to make one remark. You just came back from Brussels, and you say in Brussels they don't like very much that the Chinese will develop mainly the north possible, I would say, way to connect China with Europe, but probably they would like that the Chinese and the Europeans will develop the southern one. But this is what you said, right?
No, in general, Europe, Chinese proposed in the last approach to focus only on the southern belt.
Yeah.
And this is was not appreciated by the European Union, because clearly there are interests, in particular in the northern countries, Poland or Germany, which are more interested in the northern gate.
Sure.
So this is
extremely interesting from the geopolitical point of view,
Clear.
of course. Because let's take the both solutions. The northern one goes through Russia, Moscow. And I read an article on the Corriere della Sera on the 10th of September of this year, saying that nowadays there are 30 trains going from China to Duisburg in Germany. They are full when they arrive, and half of them, they go back empty. So they take more products from China to Europe than from Europe to China. But they pass through Russia. Moscow, not Ukraine, but Poland and Germany. Then we have the other solution, but it's still to be constructed as far as I know. Because the southern one will pass where? From China, it will go perhaps through partly to India, or then India means then Pakistan is a trouble area. Then you go more in the north, and we take other countries, former Soviet republics too, and then we go to Iran. Iran is another, in this moment, trouble area. Then to go to Turkey, Balkan area. So we are in Trieste, and our friends from Slovenia are from Slovenia. And we do prefer the southern one, the way passing through the Balkan road and arriving to our town, to Trieste. And you work in the Port Authority of Trieste. So we do hope that Trieste will be a terminal of this, instead of the northern cities of Europe.
It will be independently.
Of course we support the southern one, but also the southern one has a lot of potential threats. What do you think?
Clear, but I think that China is more able to deal with these smaller countries, in fact, that are different from the Russia single and very powerful subject, and they probably believe that the challenge to build infrastructure and to reinforce links with this country in the long term strategy is more paying than selecting the northern route, letting this area outside the Chinese influence. So I think that it is kind of a rational reason to explain why they are focusing on infrastructures, land infrastructures along the southern channel. Clearly, in this moment, trades use the northern road, the northern rails, but we shouldn't forget that the maritime route remains, in terms of trade, one of the most important opportunities. But clearly, the land initiative is a long-term initiative, willing to influence and to enter with infrastructure, but not only in these countries, is quite clear.
Can I just follow up on your, like you said, the maritime route is really the main one for the exchange of goods. And we know that the Chinese have bought the port of Piraeus, and they're building up the connection between Piraeus up to Budapest. And on the same side, they're also investing into the port of Venice. How do you think...
What investment in Port of Venice?
Oh, okay. They will invest in the Port of Venice to improve the infrastructure, but how would you see the effect of, let's say, just Piraeus on the northern Adriatic ports and as far as goods, Chinese goods coming into our region?
So I didn't discuss so much the logistics aspect, because I think that we talk a lot of that, so I prefer to talk about the general aspects. Piraeus, they perceived that it is a problem, because they understood that it is not so easy to build the railway link from Greece to Central European countries. It is a long-term project. It was the first attempt to land in the European context, and they probably were not fully aware about risks. Now they have understood that this is a project which remains important, but it could be less interesting than other options. And this is the reason why, really, they are looking to other port opportunities in the Adriatic Sea, because the Balkan link will be realized in the long term, sure, but not in the next 5 or 7 years. And they need to enter the market as soon as possible. So this is the reason why they went to explore the North Adriatic Sea. Venice.
And do you have so there's no news in Italy about Venice and the Chinese investing into it, into the port facilities and the...
What is the investment in Venice by Chinese?
Okay, my information is that they have bought up a lot of land, that they will be making a logistics facility behind the port of Venice and start using it more.
Okay, they are buying different how do you say, inland areas. This is not a matter, but from the port point of view, a Chinese company had the contract to design the offshore port of Venice, but they also, this company saw that in fact the project is quite unrealizable, because it is too costly. It is not really a convenient infrastructure. Now they are looking to Ravenna. Ravenna is a port which for some specific activities could be of interest. In this moment, ports which are really in the game are Trieste and Ravenna, not Venice. Venice has a project, yes, and they politically push a lot.
Yeah.
So, but in fact, there is not a project capable to satisfy Chinese investors. So this is my opinion, and also the feeling from the market.
And also, the Chinese are doing a lot of investment in CPC, so all across Pakistan. How do you think this will impact the movement of goods? I know you don't have it here, but that's like one of the biggest investments at the end, at the beginning. I mean, in this year, I think they've invested already some like $30 billion into CPC, and now they're talking about an additional 90. So it's going to be movement. They already built the motorways and the rail links. Now they're looking into the oil and gas links. How do you think this will also impact the movement of goods?
Sorry,
how would you, I mean, since you're from the Port Authority, how would you see this as impacting the movement of goods, let's say, between Europe and China?
That it is difficult to say in the long term what will be happen, because there are many types of flows that could be potentially of interest for our region. But what is important is understanding that it is not only a matter of flows. It is a matter of capability to develop more integrated projects, linking also, for example, industrial investment opportunities, which are probably in the long term are more important than just trade flows.
That's actually true, because effectively the Belt and Road Initiative, the first sentence that they made was, it takes a road. So from their point of view is they're building infrastructure to help develop communities all around the world, whereby after that they want private business to follow in and start developing all the areas where they invest infrastructure. Yeah. So yes, you're correct. It's not just the goods.
But also for Trieste, this could be a share of the chance.
Yeah, I think this is probably the perfect introduction to the next speaker. Because we are talking not only about ports, we are not only talking about ways to enter Europe, but also we are talking about systems to access, where infrastructures are complemented by knowledge-producing institutions. So I invite here Cristiano Piani from the University of Trieste Innovation Office to tell us something about what our university is doing with respect to this new scenario. Cristiano will introduce a series of presentations by academic institutions. I welcome here Tiziano Vescovi from the University of Venice, Ca' Foscari, which will share with us soon his experience about collaborating with China. And I also welcome Alberto Di Minin from Sant'Anna of Pisa, Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna, one of the leading academic institutions in Italy, which has important roles in the promotion of collaborations at the scientific level with China. As I see, Alberto, if I can ask you on the spot, I know that you have sometimes time constraints. Actually, you are busy with a training activity upstairs, I know. So how much time do you have available to stay with us, more or less? Okay, so 20 or 30? More 20 than 30. So, Cristiano, if you don't mind, I would like to exploit the presence of Alberto, and then I will leave the floor. So, before the break, we will have Alberto Di Minin and then Cristiano Piani. So, please, if you want to come, Alberto, over here. This is what moderators are meant for. I mean, to rearrange the schedule based on the appearance of speakers. Do you have a... Okay, sorry. Just 1 minute, we upload the slides. Okay, if you want to, you can stay over here. Okay.
It's very nice to be here with you today. Sheshe for your attention. Let me introduce you the activities of Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna, and it's going to be an aspect for. It's actually becoming a case study right now, as we have been celebrating the 11th anniversary of our presence with staff and people in China. So, according to our embassy in Beijing, we've been right now we are the institution that for the longest period of time has been in China with resident staff. And as I will explain you, in my opinion, later on, this is a very important aspect of success for doing business along the Silk Road and to do business with China. What I will introduce you now is the latest project that we are running from Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna. The branch of Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna in China is called Galileo Galilei Italian Institute. Galileo Galilei, why? Because Galileo Galilei used to be in Pisa, okay? Studied in Pisa, then moved to Padova, and more or less we have the same Galileo Galilei that started in Sant'Anna and then moved to the city of Chongqing. How many of you know where the city of Chongqing is? Okay, very good. It's a little bit a problem. The city of Chongqing is one of the largest cities in the world. Basically, has a GDP of, I think, Chile, and he's the 30 million inhabitants, half of Italy, concentrated in the middle of China. This path between Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna and Chongqing started 11 years ago. And it was a path that was very interesting and has landed now with a 1 million euros investment by our Chinese partners for a startup project which is called Sino-Italian Innovation Base Camp, with 4 square kilometers of land to develop, and a 2 years pilot project to conduct this exercise. At the center of this is the key ingredient of 10 years of presence of our people in China, because that was an element of trust building that was absolutely important for the result and the beginning of this project. This project had been signed in a very particular moment. I don't know if I was authorized to take this picture, but I did take this picture because you see here is my rector, Pier Domenico Perata. This is the president of Chongqing University, standing in front of our president Sergio Mattarella and President Xi Jinping. We are in the Great Hall of People, and not many people sign agreements between 2 universities in the Great Hall of People, and this has been a clear success, a very important starting point for this project. Once again, I don't leave this slide here because I don't know if I was authorized to click on the camera. I think I was, but anyway, I was the only one. This is a 3-part collaboration. The 3-part collaboration is between 2 universities, Chongqing University and Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna in Pisa. And then there is a high-tech zone, part of the TORCH program. Some of you might know what are the TORCH programs. The TORCH program is an economic development project launched in the 90s by the Chinese government to develop parts of the cities that are not the core parts of the city, but are a little bit peripheral with respect to the center of the city. Bishan is a district of Chongqing, approximately the size of Genova, 1 million and something inhabitants, and a beautiful landscape, a little bit peripheral when it comes to manufacturing activities. So it was the idea was to start developing this area with a creation of a high-tech zone. This is Chongqing. So a little bit of geography lesson. This is the Yangtze River. You can easily take the boat from Shanghai and navigate up for 11 days on the Yangtze River. Or you can fly directly from Rome. Rome and Helsinki are the only two European cities that have direct connection to Chongqing, so which is actually quite nice. So you can take the flight to Chongqing from Rome, much easier, or you can take the train from Duisburg, Chengdu, Chongqing, which is the one of the pivotal projects of the Silk Road that we are talking about today. 30 million inhabitants, a GDP more or less the size of, 1/10 of the GDP of Italy. One incredible aspect is still one of the few areas of China that grows double digit. Okay, you know that China has decreased a little bit the growth, but the youngest of the 4 municipalities of China. So, you know, Beijing, Tianjin, Shanghai, and Chongqing are the 4 municipalities, which means direct control of the government. They are disconnected from the Sichuan, the region where they are located. As I said, you know, the center point. I don't want to spend too much time of the Silk Road. This is Bishan. The location, this is the map of the city. This is Chongqing at the intersection of the Yangtze River and another river that passes through the city. This is the downtown. We are located here. This is the university town where our institute is located. This is the new university town of the Chongqing University, and then the district of Bishan. This is the project. The project is about empowering the Bishan ecosystem with Italian technologies by creating a connection with the Italian science and technology base. So our role is a little bit to connect Italian scientists and engineers with Chinese science and engineers to empower the Bishan ecosystem. We do this through education, research, and science and technology transfer, so with joint educational programs, joint research labs and activities, we'll see in a little bit an example, and then technology transfer, startup, and incubation. So these are the 3 areas that we are engaging in collaboration. What we design as a system, basically, we first try to create a match between Italian scientists and Chinese counterparts, mostly from Chongqing universities, but there are other universities in town, research centers, so we need a scientific partner, a local scientific partner. Together, they develop an idea that becomes the starting point of a potential collaboration. The new project needs to be explained to Bishan and to the Chongqing area, that and then each project has its own business plan and its own feasibility study. So this is basically what we do. The Galilei Institute, through this project, is trying to guide ideas from the matching, of researchers down to the feasibility plan. I'll skip this. Something very important is that we need to work very closely with the local authorities. So this is not only a scientific project, because the money allocated for this project is not for the development of the projects, but is for the planning of the development of the projects. And this is a very first time we know something like that happens, that most of the time our Chinese partners go directly for the development of the project. Here, they are sponsoring the phase of creation of the contacts, of planning. And this is for us extremely important, because at this point we have created, where did I skipped the slide. We have created a portfolio of projects that are generated by Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna, by Polytechnic of Torino, University of Florence, University of Pisa, University of Udine. There is one project from University of Udine, so not far from here. Just to... No, ma per dire... No. Facciamo qualcosa con Trieste. Va bene. I'm from Udine, so And then, seconda università di Napoli, Naples University. We have identified, together with the Chinese partners, one pilot project. That is one project that has been coordinated by a professor of Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna. This will be, as we discussed, we are in the process of discussing the details, intellectual property, budget, who's buying the things, where the PhD students go. And the idea is to create an augmented reality lab in Bishan with Italian technologies, Italian researchers, and engage in collaboration with the local partners. We are still in the phase of collecting projects. So my role here, I have 5 wonderful people in China doing the hard work. I'm just going around Italy introducing what Bishan is and what this project is, and to engage in potential collaborations with universities. I was very successful with Udine, and maybe I'm also successful with Trieste. I don't know, maybe just here. I know, I'm joking. But few points to close. One, it takes time. Hit and run strategies don't work with China. Don't work. It's gonna end very much frustrated, because you realize that there is a cultural element to keep in mind. Our experience was that at a certain point things started to happen after we solved some small problems, but that, solving and working together on the small projects allowed us to build a reputation. Without that, nothing happens. So hit and run strategy do not work with China. Even if there is an alignment of business models, no. In my opinion, they don't work. It takes time. Second, you need to have patience. It's a little bit different from what I said, because the process is not linear. Okay, there is the Chinese New Year that comes after the Italian Christmas holidays. Then there is the meeting of the Chinese Central Committee. And you're like, okay, but we have a timeline, huh? And all of a sudden, you have on your WeChat, you have 55 different audio messages. Ari, it's important, urgent, priority. Okay, you've been sleeping for 2 months now, and now it's a priority? Yes. That's how it happens in China. And I am like, every time it happens, I'm like, okay, this is not the way to do it. If you don't want to do it, stay home. But this is the way I think it has been working so far. So we call them the big accelerations. The big acceleration. So they call me from China and say, Alberto, we're entering in a big acceleration problem. Last but not least, try to, we have been learning in the hard way, we're learning in the hard way what are your local partners really telling you. You don't want to put your partners in an embarrassing situation. It's incredible how some of these projects just evaporated because we entered not in a respectful way. We did not build the right interfaces. So that's why I think this project is so nice, because we have the budget not to develop the projects, okay, but we have the budget to build the interface, and I think this is extremely important. So this was our experience, and come back to me. I'll be around. I'll be upstairs if you want to engage in a conversation.
Can I exploit your presence here? Of course, then I will open up a question session for you, considering your time constraints. But I would like to, as this event is also targeted to startups, I mean, we would like also, of course, not only this, but we would like also to discuss whether there are opportunities open towards East rather than towards West. And as you have been studying many years in the West Coast, and so you know very well what the Silicon Valley is. So if you put yourself in the shoes of a startupper from the Adriatic region here, if you were one of these young entrepreneurs, would you consider now as a more interesting option to go east rather than to go west? Because this is one of the open questions we would like to discuss and debate today.
I think that the answer to this, it's of course, it depends on your business. Huh? I don't want to generalize, go east, go west, depends. If you decide to go east, don't go alone. I don't want to discourage. I think I'm actually the opposite of discouraging. There are great institutions, entry points that allow you to do things in the proper way. A startup entering China, with a touristic visa and reaching out to one of the incubators that answered one of the emails saying, I would like to come, would you host me, is dead meat. Dead meat, okay? Because you are by yourself. I think that because of the things that I told you, it takes time, you need to build a reputation and so on and so forth. I think that the right approach is to identify institutions and partners that you can rely on and trust. And there are very nice entry points where this can happen. One strength of our project is that we are not moving one finger without informing our consulate, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, our Ministry of Education, whoever are our institutional partners. We want to introduce ourselves as the Italian system interacting with China. Within our and by the way, here is a startup that comes with us. Okay, so do not play dirty games with my startup because you're playing dirty games with Italy. And this approach has helped us solve a lot of problems. So when we have problems of the Chinese going to sleep for like 2 months, we don't hear anything from them, our consulate intervenes. So this is, in my opinion, this has been extremely important. And we've seen, this is not only the Italian, I'm not saying this is the Italian way, but there are other institutions that are adopting the same approach with China. Switzerland, for example, is doing the same, and I think there are, for example, Swiss Next, extremely great example. They're moving as a system, and moving as a system, flexible enough to host other elements. But doing this, Andrea, by yourself, without a network that supports you, might work in Silicon Valley. I don't know, but definitely doesn't work with China, in my opinion.
Thank you. Other questions? Okay, it seems that you have been very convincing. Oh, thank you a lot, Alberto, for spending your break here with us. They don't know, but I know that you are spending a few hours, very tough hours.
My marker.
Training upstairs. So thanks again. Okay. And see you soon. May I now give the floor before the break to Cristiano Piani. Cristiano, you have been provoked by Alberto because he said that they are doing business with China and promoting entrepreneurship with China with the University of Udine or other universities, and perhaps not with the University of Trieste. But perhaps you are doing, or we are doing other stuff with the eastern part of the world. So
I think I'm the only one.
The floor is yours.
Without direct experience with China. So, thank you. I will give you in a few minutes the university point of view about these matters. And in in the interconnections between, among science, technology, society, universities' missions, as mentioned before, are three: education, research, technology transfer. But we don't forget the fourth mission is not a common mission, but the fourth mission is science diplomacy. Science diplomacy means science diplomacy is the use of scientific collaborations among nations to address common problems and to build constructive international partnership. So, however, has become an umbrella term to describe a number of formal or informal technical, research-based, academic, or engineering exchanges. You have to use university as a diplomat. For example, in 2 years, we hosted in Trieste a great situation about science diplomacy. We will have as of 2020, the payoff as of 2020 is science for freedom, freedom for science. Because we are facing a lot of challenges. We have a lot of challenges in front of us. In particular, changing climate or, for example, aging population and so on. Universities can be a factor to solve some of these risks. For example, rising chronic disease and so on. In particular, as universities, we are facing two important international challenges. The first one is the commodification of higher education, and the second one is the opportunities of open networking. In the first scenario about commodification of higher education, we have some features about global competition for education, for example. Segmentation of education and the research market. Strong international division of labor according to competitive advantage. And so on. In the second one, we are facing problems and opportunities, also opportunities about the open innovation, about open knowledge and technologies. We are experiencing intensive networking among institutions, scholars, and students. We are experiencing international collaborative research, and so also lifelong learning outside the higher education sector. So, I will, as mentioned above, I learned that every index you treat about China is increasing. So, I know these are the top technology investments for next 5 years, and most of these investments are in ICT sectors and so on. And as you can see, China is the only country as a hockey stick growth. Which means that in few years, China, sorry for the Italian slide, but I was talking about the Italian matching with China, and so in China, in a few years, we'll have the world factory of the most common industries about aerospace, information technology, agriculture, maritime, new materials, and biomedical sector in particular. This is a particular point of view of this new, so let me say, China imperialism. Because in this slide, as we can see that in the years 2005-2007, the percentage of growth in patent application worldwide by Chinese was more or less comparable to the United States of America. 5 years later, in 2010, 2012, the percentage of growth of Chinese patents is doubled. This is in general, in Europe in particular. We mentioned a few minutes ago the difference: go west, go east, go west. So they are going west, in particular with technologies, because in the EPO offices, the European Patent Office, the growth rates in filing, in patents filing coming from China, the growth is 22% compared to 0.7% coming from Europeans. So Italy is a land of conquest too. Sorry for the Italian one. You have to note, in Italy, we have more or less 6,000 patents filed per year. So if 2,000 are coming from China, is an important data. And also, there's very, very important, as mentioned before, because the Chinese cities are learning from the American situation, because if you can see, always talking about patent filings, China is every time with hockey stick growth. This growth is made, half of this growth is made coming from Shenzhen. So they are following the US model to the Silicon Valley model. And Trieste, okay, it's in this scenario, Trieste is in the intersection between the two routes, okay. And in particular, as a University of Trieste, we have a long tradition about collaboration with China. First agreement was signed in the 80s about geology and engineering. But in the post-war era, now we have 7, 8 agreements with Chinese universities, in particular about few topics about languages and law in this moment. Now, with these agreements, we exchange students, 10 students ongoing in 2018. We exchange researchers, we exchange projects. In particular, we organize 2 summer schools. One in Nanjing, with the topic about history, duration 1 week, alternate 1 year in Italy, 1 year in China. And one in Shanghai with S Group is a network of European universities, which the topic is culture and language, duration 1 month in Shanghai. Our strategy is the think tank strategy. We participate in this S Group think tank China to promote initiatives, encourage joint projects, identify good practices, and create, in particular, creating consulting services. We organize also an internal think tank China, an internal university think tank China, to identify the most promising research topics in which to invest. We use this model, the think tank model, to address these matters, to match ongoing initiatives, to define investment. We participate in some platforms, in YouGen platforms. In Beijing, the idea is a database of experts. Summarizing my speech, I can suggest in particular to startups, to use your university as not a personal digital assistant, but as a personal diplomatic assistant, because as a cultural mediator, because university speaks the same language over the world. So you can use your university as a mediator. You have to ask university to become your bridge to Chinese culture, history. As you can see, we organize a summer school about history, for example. For market, technology, intellectual property is a huge problem that about intellectual property. about manufacturing law, vision of the future, yeah, because they are shaping the future with these initiatives, with investment, organization, and also with people, students you can find outside. So thank you. I was very, very fast.
Okay, let's see whether there are any questions regarding the role of universities in this new scenario. I just inform the audience that we will focus again on this just after the break with Tiziano Vescovi from Ca' Foscari University of Venice. But it's now just about time, if there are no questions, to have a short break, a 15 minutes break, which will be served behind there. So let's meet again in 15 minutes.